Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Let's start rolling solo. Good morning. Hello. Good time zone. Welcome to Rolling Solo, a Daggerheart actual play solo role playing podcast, stream, show, actual play show. Whatever we are, we play Daggerheart, we play alone, and it's a lot of fun. So, welcome to you, and let's go ahead and talk about where we're at in our campaign so far. A smarter person would have a recap that they had already put down on paper and could write, but I'm not that person, so it's off the top of my head. Here we go. We are playing in the Witherwild campaign frame, which means that we have Haven, we have Fainwick. Haven is the city, Fainwick is the country. Haven, the city, has kind of invaded the Fainwick in order to cultivate a particular plant that they need to cure a plague that they're having in Haven. There's some backstory there, but that's all you really need to know for this. Well, there's one other thing you need to know, which is that the Fainwick is currently experiencing an endless spring, which is corrupting and transforming many of the animals and plants in the Fainwick. They're experiencing an endless spring because the Havenites invaded the Fainwick and found the great owl Nicta, one of the small gods of the Fainwick, and plucked out their their reaping eye. The owl has two eyes, sowing eye and reaping eye. The sowing eye creates spring, the reaping eye creates winter. So they plucked out the reaping eye so that there's no more winter, and that is creating this Witherwild that we are seeing, hence the name of the campaign frame. The one of the people in the Fainwick, the Fain Wraith, has decided that the solution to this problem is to pluck out the sowing eye from the great owl, thus leaving there being no spring and no winter, which sounds bad. And on the belief that this is probably a bad idea, our heroes, Soot and Shade, our twin jackalopes, have decided to chase down to protect the great owl. So that's kind of where we're at. We are chasing after the Fainwraith. The Fainwraith is trying to get to the great owl. We're trying to get to the great owl first. And in the meantime, there is kind of an open question of how are we going to solve the Witherwild problem? One of our characters, Soot, who is a witch, has been trying to commune and get some understanding of whether there's another way to solve this problem, and has so far come up with nothing. So that's where we are, and with that, that's where we are, and with that, let's get started. So, Soot and Shade are on a mountainside. Think East Coast American mountains, not West Coast American mountains, not the Alps, but a more, or the Cascades, or the Rockies, but more of like the Appalachians. A little bit bigger, a little bit steeper, but still not snow covered, tree covered. No tree line on these mountains. It's kind of forested all the way up and over. So the forest does get thinner at higher altitudes, so they're in this kind of, especially as the terrain gets steeper, so they're in kind of a steep patch of the mountains, having just encountered and fought a flicker fly. Soot. And so, since they are just out of combat, this is a great moment for them to engage in some short rest activities. So, looking at where our characters are at mechanically, and looking at where our characters are at mechanically, they are Soot is kind of fucked up, and Shade. Where are you at, Shade? Here you are. Shade, she is not doing all that well either. So we have two, and again, Shade is a, these are bunny-eared, antelope-horned, digitigrade, bunny-legged, what we're calling lagomorphs in this campaign. It's a custom ancestry. So they're kind of sitting kind of rabbit style back on their feet and kind of panting in exhaustion, having just finished off this flicker fly, using a great deal of their magic to have done so. And they're going to take a rest. We have just bumped up to level 8, so we're at tier 4. They're not talking much. They're kind of just looking at each other and kind of trying to like get the blood out of their ears and out of their hair, and just trying to, out of their fur, and just trying to clean up and look and think about what they want to do. So let's go ahead and go through our short rest mechanics. Let's see. And if you're watching these and I have taken too many short rests, hey, let me know. But I think I've got at least one more short rest before I have to take a long rest. So on a short rest, Lagomorph is a mixed ancestry between fawn and elf. So we get 3 rest moves instead of 2, using the kind of trance capacity. And I think that the first thing that's going to happen is here, Shade is going to, since Shade has marked all of her stress, 7 stress, Shade is going to take a moment to trance out, and in her trance kind of try to bring her heart rate down and bring herself to a state of equilibrium and clear some stress. So let's see how well we do with that. We do pretty well. That is hard for you to see, but it's a 4. So on a 4, we reduce a d4 plus the tier. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's all of her stress. So she clears all of her stress. And and she will clear all of her hit points. I don't have to roll for that. She's only marked 4. So, and actually this is going to be one of Soot's downtime moves as she's trancing, or after she comes out of her trance. Soot is going to spend some time bandaging her wounds and taking care of her, and so that he clears her hit points. And she will do the same for him. And he will clear a d4 plus 4 of his hit points, clearing 7. We'll get him back to normal. He will repair his armor. So Shade has spent 2 downtime moves. 1 to clear her own stress. 1 to bandage up Soot and clear his hit points. Soot has spent 2 downtime moves. 1 to repair his armor while Shade was meditating, and 1 to bandage up Shade and help her to clear her hit points. So they each have 1 left. Shade is a warlock. So I'm going to say that rather than give the DM more fear, she is going to, by enduring her pain first and seeking a sense of silence, thus giving a sacrifice to her, or at least attuning with her patron of silence and pain, she will gain a favor equal to her presence, which is 5. So she will gain enough favor to be full up on favor. That is Shade's 3 downtime moves. Soot, for his 3rd downtime move, will forage and use the forager trait for from the Sage domain. Rolling a d6. Roll this one. 1. A unique food that can clear 2 stress. So they have that now in their inventory. 2 stress clearing food. So he looks around, spends some time foraging and digging, or and looking through the kind of the forest, and he finds a patch of mushrooms, which he knows will mushrooms that will help them relax, and some relaxing mushrooms that they find. So we have those. And then I will gain some fear. And you can't see it, but it's a 1. I gain 1 whole fear. So that's... could have gone better. Shade will say to Soot, well, I suppose we'd better be moving on. And Shade will agree. And we'll take... Oh, I have it in my inventory, plus it's a recall of 0. So... do we have the hope for this? We do. Soot will spend 2 hope. And in spending 2 hope, will conjure 2 steeds. He will, again, begin his ritualistic casting of this spell, using his pinches of different herbs and, that flame in his hands, and slowly begin to spin out of thin air 2 kind of horses, full horses that he spins out of the air and creates. Thus giving them 2 steeds to ride on that will give them double their movement speed as they try to catch the Fane Wraith. They saddle up and ride off. However, I don't think we've communed as of yet. So before we conjure steeds, I don't think I've used the commune feature during this long rest. So I'm going to use the commune feature for the witch now, which is once per long rest, you can commune with an ancestor, deity, nature spirit, or otherworldly being and ask them a question. Roll a number of d6s equal to your spellcast trait. And so his spellcast trait is knowledge, and it is 5. So we'll roll 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll roll 5d6s. We'll take that 6. And on a 6, we physically experience a scene relevant to the answer of our question. And the question that we have is the same question we've had before. Although we're going to assume that the answer is that there is a way to do this. And the question he is going to ask is, how? How can the Witherwild be cured? And so, since we don't know the answer to that, we will use our Oracle's sheet to answer some questions. So my first question is, can the Witherwild be cured without actually retrieving the Reaping Eye from wherever Haven has locked it up? So that'll be our first question, is can the Witherwild be fixed without the eye? That sounds like a deterministic answer, so we'll use our Oracle sheet, which is a D10. Because we're using the plot unfolding machine as our basis for this campaign. In the past, we've used different oracles, but in this campaign, I'm just using the plot unfolding machine. So let's see. Can this be done? 5. A weak no. Well, what does a weak no mean in a deterministic situation? Um, because I really want the answer to be yes. What does a weak no mean? Does a weak no mean that it's definitely not? Does it mean that it's possibly not? Probably not. Um, we're going to say that for the purposes of this commune, the scene that Soot sees is of them returning the reaping eye to the great owl as the best way or the easiest way to cure this blight, is to allow nature to return to its balance the same way that it has been in the past. However, the sense is that this is not necessarily the only way, but this is certainly the easiest way. And so that is the best answer that Soot has at this time. And so they begin riding off after the Bane Wraith. Their goal is to get to the Great Owl before the Bane Wraith does. So the question is, can they do that? So I will propose a story beat that they will be moving through a territory. The territory that they are moving through is in a hazardous area. As they move through this hazardous area, they will we will add some trouble or bad news. What kind of trouble will we bring out? Bring in some trouble or some bad news. So we're riding along. We get into some trouble or some bad news. Well, I guess we could... Okay, the trouble that they come up upon is that they get to a spot as they're riding. At first, things are fine. The steeds are moving quickly. They are able to find some places where they can kind of let their horses kind of gallop a bit. They get down off the switchbacks, they ride quickly across a valley and begin riding back up a mountain. As they are, you know, kind of moving along, and they start moving back up a mountain. They feel like they've made some time back up from the time that they've lost with these two encounters that they've had to go through. Are they close to the where the great owl is? Is the great owl directly on the other side of this mountain? Definitely not. Is the great owl within a day's travel? No, slightly more than a day's travel. So we're going to have to go through. We have been traveling now for really not that long. We've only taken, I think, one rest. So this is everything that's happened in the last several episodes has really happened within a day of travel. So they will not reach the great owl during this day. As they're riding up the mountain, they are going to we're going to add some trouble or bad news. I think the trouble that we're going to add is that the pathway narrows and becomes very difficult terrain and hard to navigate. I am going to, so they have to get off and begin leading the horses. So reducing them to like a walking type pace. Let's create an environment. We'll call this Steep Mountain Trail. Let's say I can spend a fear for a rock slide. This is a tier 4 environment. So its difficulty should be, let's look that up real quick. Environments. Environment stat blocks. Tier 4, it says the difficulty for a Tier 4 environment should be 20. So we'll say this is a 20. So I can spend a fear for a rock slide, which is agility to avoid. We can have there be a we'll count down this to 4 to pass through. Or to get up this mountain trail. We'll say that there is narrow passage to call. Let's see, what are some other things we could do with a steep mountain trail? We'll say there are wasps, which I can also spend a fear for. And that will be... let's see, let's say finesse. To avoid the wasp nest, where they'll take d4 damage. Let's call it d4. Yeah, d4 damage from the wasp stings. There's nothing you can do. And I feel like this is, you know, a little harsh, but it's a tier 4 environment. So I can spend a fear for a rock slide, agility to avoid, or let's say damage dice for a tier 4 are 4d10 plus 10 or 4d8 plus 3. 48 plus 3 to 4d10 plus 10. Let's call this 4d10 plus 4. So a rock slide comes down, they'll take that much damage unless they can avoid it. Wasps, they'll take 4d8 plus 3 damage if they can't avoid the wasps. And then just to navigate this without slipping, we'll just say that we have to make what kind of rolls? Agility rolls? Yeah, definitely agility rolls. And these are just agility rolls to navigate. And those will that's our bad news. Let's start navigating our mountain environment. So we're going to try to get up the steep mountain trail. As they go up, I'm just going to expend a fear right away to cause those reaction rolls to happen. So step 1. All right, so rocks fall, everyone dies. Starting with Soot, who will make his agility roll at +1. This is a reaction, but Soot is extra cautious. So I'll spend a hope to use the extra cautious so that this is rolling at a +5. And our DC on this is 20. Anything else you can do about this, Soot old boy? No. But with a 19 on the die, +5, Soot navigates the rock slide, and our countdown timer will go to 3. We don't have a good... There we go. 3. Okay. So, Shade has to make her roll. And let's see. Shade has an agility... Shade's agility is +2. I will spend a hope because Shade is suspicious. So that'll be a +4 on this roll. It's an agility reaction roll. Okay, so that's, and 20 is our base, so that is 8, that is 6, that is 14, plus 4 is 18. That is a failure. Shade will take... What did we say? We said a lot. I remember that. Four D10 plus 4 damage. So let's grab some D10s here. 1 D10, 2 D10s, 3 D10s. Do I have a 4th D10? I should have a 4th D10. 4 D10s. Okay, so that's kind of a crappy roll. So that's good for Soot. That'll be 3. 4 is 7. 7 is 14. 5 is 7, 7, 14. 5 is 19. Plus 4 is 19, 20, 21 is 23. 23 points of physical damage. That is on Shade. Major damage for 2 hit points. Shade will spend Shade has not taken the time to take on her patron's mantle. And this isn't a combat situation, so I don't see why she would. So that's going to mark 1 armor, 1 hit point. And our countdown does not go down. So now we have to navigate. So we're navigating this pass. We get to a particularly narrow point, and we're going to attempt to make some progress through this. This is an agility roll. This is an action roll. This is Shade trying to make some progress. Really doesn't have anything that helps with this in terms of experiences. So this is just a straight +2. We need an 18 on the die to make any progress. Is that a 7? That's a 7. That is a 19 with hope. So we'll take a hope. And we will tick our countdown timer to 2. I'm out of fear. I can't do anything to them. Shade has made some progress. Soot has no hope to spend. And so needs a 19 on the die to make this happen. That is a 22 with fear, so I get a fear. But they do count the die down. To a 1. I will immediately spend that fear to have Soot and Shade make their way through this particularly narrow gap. But as they do, Shade disturbs a wasp's nest, and they have to make reaction rolls to cope with this. So this is a finesse roll. DC is still 20. So now we've you know, they're leading their horses. First there was a slide of tumbling rocks. They pressed themselves back up against the mountain. The rocks fall. They both survived. Shade Shade was not able to move quickly enough and was struck with these rocks. It takes these big impacts, and she cries out in pain. But they continue to make their way up this narrow pass after taking this rock slide, and then as they're crossing a particularly narrow chunk of trail where the land is steep, they disturb, or Soot disturbs, steps on essentially a wasp's nest. Okay, and so now they both have to make finesse rolls to avoid being stung by wasps. So we will start with Shade. +3 to finesse. We'll spend a hope for being suspicious. Sure. So this rolls at a +5. So let's go ahead and clear a hope. She is suspicious that something bad would happen. So this is rolling at +5. DC of 20, reaction roll. That is 9 and a 9. That is a crit. We don't get anything on criticals on reaction rolls, except that we succeed, which you would have anyway because it was high enough. So this time Shade manages to spring to safety away from these wasps. And Soot is left to... since Soot is the one who disturbed them in the first place, Soot's finesse is +0. Soot has no hope to spend, so this is just a straight reaction roll, DC 20. That is not a critical. It looked like one for a moment, but it's not. It is a 69. Nice. But that is a total of 15, which will not pass. So Soot is steps on this wasp nest, begins slapping and springing and trying to move away, but before he can, he will take 4d8 plus 3 physical damage. 1d8, 2d8s. Let's just roll 2d8s twice. No, I have the d8s for this, but we'll just roll this. So that's 8. That's 10. That's 18 plus 3, 21 damage to Soot. That is major damage. So we'll take an armor and a hit point. And then let's see if we can get through this mountain. We'll start with Shade taking the lead, spending a hope for her experience of I'll handle it. She looks back at Shade, looks back at Soot, who's stung by wasps and looking kind of miserable, and says, "Follow me to go this way." And she will make a agility roll. Her agility is +2. She's using I'll handle it +3, so this is at +5. We need a 15 on the die to succeed. That is not a 15, but it's a roll with hope, so we get our hope back. I don't have a fear to spend on the environment, so Soot will make... He will follow her, and we need a 20 on the die to get through this. So this is an agility. No, we need a 19 on the die for this roll. We don't get it, but we're rolling with hope, so they make some progress up the mountain, but they don't completely get out of this dangerous zone. They are able to, Shade is able to kind of take the lead and get them through another dangerous patch. Rocks slide out, but they slide out below them, and they, manage to get themselves and the horses up a little bit higher. So then Shade will make another agility roll. She will spend another hope for I'll handle it. This is +5. And that is a 20 with fear. But that is sufficient to get them through Mountain Pass and clears our timer. I get another fear. And they reach the top of the ridge. Okay. So they go up this kind of steep, sort of treeless mountainside. It's dusty and kind of gross. They get stung by wasps. They get pummeled by rocks. They make it to the top where they believe they can, again, saddle up and try to make up some time. And those last rolls, I forgot to roll them where you could see them. I didn't bring up the camera. Oh well, sorry about that. Okay, so I think we're going to do a short episode today. I'm just going to close there. I've got some other things I've got to do. So thank you for watching. We will open at the top of this mountain next week. We didn't really get a chance to use any of our level 8 powers, but it's a bit... Looking at the time, we're at about 50 minutes, so it's a good time to close out. So, thank you for watching. We will pick this up next time, and should you want a t-shirt like this one, Embrace the Chaos tee or Rolling Solo tees are available at that shop. So hey, buy some swag. It will make your life better. And other than that, keep rolling, y'all.